collection, which consists of 4 books. It consists of 5 books, but 4 of them I personally wrote myself. Success is Automatic, The River of Gold, Community is Born, and Uncovering the Scheme, Preventing the Evolution of the African American Culture. And also part of that collection is a book that was written and documented in 1932, but taken off the market because it's powerful information. It's been kept away from the African American people for over 70 years. That we had this book should be taught in every school, but not taught in any schools in America. It shows the African American as becoming self-sufficient community like any nation in the world. And it was done and it was completed. The book was completed in 1932. So it was talking about a time between 1896 and 1932, where the African American community had grown to be stronger than any other ethnic group in the country, including Chinatown, Germantown, all the other different Little Italy and the different places that was growing in America. The African American was outgrowing them as a community. That book there exposes that fact clearly, and it's so powerful that when I first had the privilege of getting this book, I was so grateful that it was a book that was I didn't know was on the market. It's a relative of mine, my sister-in-law, who's an antique dealer, bought out an estate, and in that estate was 3 of these books, and she brought it to me hastily because she knew I was avid studier of the culture of African American people, and all information I can get related to that, I would be happy. And she brought this to me, and it just absolutely gives total credibility to the concepts and ideas that we talk about in our book, Uncovering the Scheme. It is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful complement to the book. Books complement each other. Books should complement each other, especially when they come from the same author, and from the same period of time and about the same subject. They should be working together, and that's what this collection does. This knowledge collection, it works together to help formulate an idea and concept in the mind of the African American people that has formerly been deleted in some cases, and other cases not even put into the African Americans' thinking and social development. Its cultural development has been pretty much aborted. So this information is valuable because of that absence of the knowledge of the African American culture, the African American culture. And most of us don't have a strong grasp of what this is talking about in terms of African American culture. That's why I'm so grateful to Brother Bernard and you, Brother Rashid, because of giving me the opportunity to express things that I've been studying and researching for years. And many times you can research, but if you don't have an avenue by which to take what you have and what you found out to the people, then it doesn't serve as much as it could. It just serves your own self, and you're really not researching for yourself. Although every time you research, you are enlightened by what you find, and it makes you feel good, makes you feel lighter, makes you feel a little better. But the fact of the matter is, when you do get good information, the best, compliment could be paid to information is that it helps educate other people. It teaches them to put into practice ideas and concepts into their life that would give them a better feeling, a better structure of why they are living and what they can do with what they have of their life. And this is what these books really do. The Uncovering the Scheme is such a valuable tool because it exposes some of the things that were done to the African American people without our knowledge. And some of them was it's covert and overt kind of application that was done to the African American people by the European American culture. Now, the European American culture is not being accused of this process. The European American culture is being pointed out as the implementing the ideas and concepts that shaped the negative aspects of the African American culture. Now, did they do it purposely? Some of them didn't have any idea what was being done. Um, those who started it, what was their objectives and goals? Uh, all of that relates to the African American culture because the impact of what the European American culture did to our culture, the African American culture, is catastrophic. And I use that term because we're talking about something that's so powerful that it will wipe out the existence of the African American people, not just cripple, not just break it down to a point where it would be non participants in the cultural fabric of social fabric of the societal fabric of the country, but it would absolutely eliminate the African American culture. This information, the way the European American has laid out concepts and ideas to impose and put over the African Americans' growth and development, that it will actually eliminate the African American people. This is why it's so important this information get out, because we must be uh, told, the alarm must go out that we are in a very crucial time in our existence in the world. And most of us don't have the true knowledge of who we are and the true understanding of what we can do with that knowledge of who we are. We don't have we think we don't have the power to implement that genetic pool that has been built in the African American people. We think we don't have the power to do much about it other than what the European American tells us we can do. So, in looking at this position, I have put together these books, and especially the Uncovering the Scheme. And we've been working with them now for several weeks, talking about what it has to happen, what it looks like, how we would best approach this subject. Now we're starting to move into the idea of the people who have been with us a while and have the book. Well, people from all over the country now are calling me and letting me know about they have received the books and they are elated and they can't put the books down. They want to uh, tell everybody about what this is talking about. It's happening all over California, Alabama, Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, New Jersey, all over people calling in. So we had put together a plan. Dr. Dr. J, and I don't see him on today, about how this could be, how how we can implement the educational system, use that as a tool to get some of the material out. And other brothers who have and sisters who have been looking at ways of getting this into the educational system. And they just mentioned that we're going to make the book now audio so it could be applied easier. People can listen and learn at the same time. We got Dr. Guyton, he's working with us on that. And this is happening. It's happening for real. Why is it? Why is it happening? Why is this so important? It's important because this comes at a time in the history of the African American people where a sense of urgency must be put into the community of our people. They must begin to understand this situation today is urgent. It's not a situation that, okay, well, let's do it by chance, or let's do it as a supplement. No, this is far beyond a supplement kind of thing. What's going on now is that we have to use this knowledge that we've been blessed to come in contact with. We have to use it as a tool to help propagate and cultivate the African American culture. If we don't do that, the African American culture is on the brink of becoming extinct. On the brink of becoming extinct. And when I first started this research, it was serious then. But as I've gone through the years researching and finding more evidence, it's more than serious now. It's crucial. It's crucial. It's not just a serious problem, it's crucial now. And we must take care of the issue of, the African American people are on the brink of extinction. And I'm using the word brink as a word to be less frightening, but it's more than on the brink. The African American community is in the grips of the concept of extinction. We're in that grips now. Now, how did this get to this point? We have much of our story. We tell the stories. We tell about the schemes that was set up. But now we're at this point. Most of our people don't know what that point is. Most people are walking up on the gallery to be hanged. Have no idea that's what the noose is for. It's like being brought to the gallows to be hanged, and what's the noose for? Why should I be hanged? They don't have no idea what's going on, but yet that's happening. The culture is on what they call death row. We're on the course of extinction. And when you say that amongst the African American people, most of them don't even believe it. It sounds so unreal to them that they don't even think of a reality. Because there's plenty of realities that show that people become extinct. There are plenty of realities that show that nations became extinct before. 95% of all the species on the planet Earth that ever existed are extinct. Extinction is nothing new. It's only new to the people that it's happening to, or the culture that it's happening to. But it's not new. There are many causes and effects as to extinction of a people. Now, you've heard of genocide of the African American culture. You've heard of the abortions of the babies of Africa. You heard of black on black crime. You've heard on the drugs. You've heard on all of these things, interracial marriages. You've heard about the homosexuality, everything that relates to the existence of a people have been pushed into the African American community so strong that we take it as a lifestyle now. We don't even realize that every time we have an interracial marriage, and then that child, which now is a real child, you got to accept it as a child, marries into the next race. If it's an African American father, European American mother, they have a child. That child then is born. That child is a cross between the two. When that child marries into a European American culture person, then that African in them begins to dissipate and disappear. Physically, you can't see it, but genetically, there's still some aspects to it. And the European American, their hope is that they can physically change the look of the African American people by these interracial marriages, and yet maintain the genetic part that you can't see, which makes up the strength and of the biology of the people. Their hope is that that immune system that's in the African American people, with the melanin and all of those things in it, remain in the European people as this transitions take place. But the facial features, the hair, the texture, the eyes, the look of the African American people would disappear. That's just one aspect. Look at the aspect that they have in place for abortions. They don't even look at the process of interracial marriages. That eliminates that. That takes it to the point where it says, we will convince the African American people not to have babies because we will tell them, and much of this is written, you could get them on different shows and different broadcasts where they talk about it. We'll tell them that it's too expensive to have a child. We'll convince them that every time they have a baby, they're going to go hungry. So the African Americans bought into that when they knew they just come from a parenthood where their fathers and mothers just before them were having 8 and 10 children, and none of them went hungry. All of them ate. At big farms, of African Americans ate. But they convinced our people of those things, and our people accepted it. And now the African American people abort more babies each year. More babies are aborted than a combination of crime, black on black crime, they call it. African Americans killing one another. AIDS, cancer, heart disease. All of the African Americans that die from those particular ailments, put it all together, abortions outnumber all of them. Abortions each year of African American children. This is going on in America today, right before our eyes. Then you have, of course, they say the police brutality, which is not really the biggest killer of African Americans, but it is a factor. The imprisonment of African Americans. Then you have this concept that they are convincing the African American people that they are sexually any combination that they want to be other than the one they was created to be. That's a powerful psychology. That's a powerful psychology that the European use against the African American. They project against all human beings. They don't just say African Americans. They project it against all Americans, but they know the percentages will affect the African American people more than it would the European American, because the African American people are people without a culture, without a foundation on which to fall back on. But they know that every time a male steps out of the production of life that's generated by mingling and having intercourse with a female, that cuts down the population growth. They have figured out how they can cut down the population growth in the world by using this concept of homosexuality. They know that that's not a real concept that can exist, because you can't have homosexuality without having heterosexual existence. There's no way you can produce it. You can't produce it. It's the nature of the way that the nature is made in all creatures. It has the power to reproduce itself. If you go to a country and you look at the people, you see those people look pretty much alike. And within them is the power to produce themselves over again. Now, what is not in them is the power to produce another nation. Like Chinese, you go to China, you see Chinese and you see it pretty much looking alike, but you don't find a group of Chinese that look like Irish people, and they produced by Chinese people. Because the genes are designed to carry
No, they
the,
down.
the,
Yeah, KKDM.
the
Yeah,
complex that make up characteristics from
yeah.
one
18,000.
generation
That's
to
how
the
many
next. It
transatlantic is,
doesn't
right?
create a new generation
Okay.
until it
Yeah.
becomes fused with that generation or those people or the genes. But if it stays made
Right
amongst
now I'm on a
itself,
conference
it
call,
produces just that.
a virtual conference call, but
That
let
is
me
in
know when is a
place
good
in
time. I'll
so
send you
that the
some via
human being can reproduce
email,
himself
and then we can move on from there. Actually, I sent you some
and
from Blog
become
Talk TV
plentiful in the
at
world.
gmail.com. I think I sent
But
you
in
an
the
email
case of
yesterday.
homosexuality,
Uh,
that doesn't exist.
yes,
The,
sir.
if you take homosexual men,
Okay, and I'll send you something.
put them on an island,
All right, my brother.
they're dead in one generation because they can't produce another generation. Homosexual women, put them on an island, they're dead in one generation because they can't produce. That's the most crucial. That is the most vital idea and concept of the elimination of a species that exists today. Nothing can eliminate the existence of a species quicker than homosexuality. Not even a bomb. If a bomb is dropped on a species, some of them will live and may have the power to keep reproducing. Even poison, some of them will get some in their immune system and be able to overcome that. But in the case of homosexuality, there is no cure other than a person not practicing that behavior. But once a species become predominant in that practice, they stop mating with the opposite sex. And that ends that. That ends that generation on the spot. So the European American has put together a plan on how to promote homosexuality in the African American community by showing it all over the TVs and it and every kind of aspect. It even make laws make a person say you can't say the word, you can't say this or you can't say that about this, and they have pushed the society to the point where they tell everybody that they're homosexual or gay. They have sex with the same sex. No one cares about who has sex, what you do in your bedroom. But in this case, they promote that to tell people what they do in their bedroom. All of that impacts on the existence of the African American people. The things that I just mentioned, if you just take one of them and say none of the other things exist in any alarming level, it may not have a great effect on the existence of the African American people. It may cause us to not multiply as fast or become as strong, but it won't have the power to eliminate the existence of the African American people. We are living in a combination of those particular events, those particular ideas, those particular tactics, those particular ways of elimination. We are in the midst of it, and we're catching the brunt of it. African Americans die faster than any other group in America, in more of abundance from different situations. This is not an accident. This is not an accident. While you're sleeping, the science is working against the African American people. The science that the European American scientists come up with. to help eliminate an existence of a species. Now, so you can grasp that idea very easily, we talk about it much on this program, that the existence of the Native American or non-existence of the Native American, whichever the case may be and whichever one we're describing, helps us understand this idea of extinction. You don't see the Iroquois, the Apache, all those are different people. They're not, the Native American is not one group, just one group. They're different species. The Navajo looks different than the Cheyenne. They're different nations. They look at each other. The facial features, their bodily features are different because they're different people. The Aztecs are different people. The Inca are different people. These, when you put them all together and look at them, you see they are different, and they're generally speaking, they're different size, different shapes, different everything from one another. Because they're species. They are a species within the whole human makeup. And the European American has eliminated most of those species. Not just single-handedly, but nearly. The ignorance of the people had something to do with it also. They didn't know what was happening to them, so they didn't know exactly how to avoid it. They thought that the European was just another form of man who didn't tell the truth, just spoke with, they call it forked tongue. But the end results was and is the extinction of the species of the American Native American, the original Aboriginal people who was on this part of the planet when the European got here. Now we get the argument from a lot of the social scientists and historians, especially African Americans, try to prove that those people were really Africans who in the European case. See, that's a mute argument. That's not even important anymore. Who they were is not important. What happened to them is what's important. How did they become extinct? And that extinction, is that a common behavior of a different group, or is extinction instigated by outside group? Can one culture promote the extinction of another culture? That's what's important in this whole idea, because that would help get our mind to be able to understand this picture that's facing us. Extinction is a natural process. Now, I know somebody said natural. It is absolutely natural. Extinction of a species is natural. It's based on the laws of the creation, the laws of the universe. It's natural. It's natural is a gravitational pull. The law of gravity that keeps us from flying off the earth. That's a law. Extinction is that natural. But man has been given the power to overcome laws, natural laws. That's why we don't have to stay on the earth. We don't even have to stay in the earth's atmosphere. We can fly out into the moon and getting now where we're getting ready to do some space travel, because we have the intellect, the mind, to overcome the laws that hold species who just operate on the basis of instinct. We operate not just on the basis of instinct, we operate on the basis of intelligence, which overrides instinct. Intelligence overrides instinct. But an instinct does have a powerful effect on how we view situations where we apply intelligence. But intelligence overrides the creation. Intelligence is the part that causes man to be able to stop walking on the floors of Africa and Europe and everywhere else and learn to build homes, factories, businesses, cultures, airplanes, flying, medicine, science, biology, development of all these things. It was the intelligence. Overcoming those little laws, the natural laws that's hooked into the creation to keep the creation in a particular shape, in a particular form. But man has the ability to change that shape, change that form because of his intelligence. Now, this intelligence is not exclusive to just one group of people. This intelligence is inherited with man, period. And as one group of people or species of man recognizes that it has a power just by using its mind, its intelligence to control another people, if you can outsmart them or trick them in some way, they implement that. And they become rulers. And why they want to become rulers? Because they want the physical, material development of the earth. The gold, the silver, the food, the shelter, all of that comes from the earth. And the more land you own, the more you can get those things from the earth. And that makes your personal self become richer and stronger. And if it's a culture, makes it becomes richer and stronger. Societies are built on that concept. We are in the midst of that. The African American people must recognize we're in the midst of that. This is not a game of sport and play. We're in the midst of man's natural development to grow and achieve. And in that growth and achievement, some of them get greedy. Some of them become predators. Some of them they want more than their share. In order to do that, they have to manipulate the others who are not aware of what's going on to get their share and the share of other people. This is what it's about. This is what the European, when he came out of Europe, and he wasn't the first to start this, he wasn't the first to start this kind of concept. The concept was started with man began to walk, and man began to see that he can have one thing more than another. It goes back as far as the history of man. But it's more sophisticated now. And that sophistication hides. It hides in the objective of the one who are bringing about that sophistication. That's why in my last book, The Scheme, it's important to understand the scheme. So we uncovering the scheme in order that the reader, the African American, could see the scheme that is put into place by the European Americans who became dominant in the earth. And that domination now is affecting the existence of the African American people. And the reason that's so important because we don't even know it's happening, but it's happening. There's a law in place. And that law is called the sub-replacement fertility rate. The sub-replacement fertility rate. You should look that up. Very important. That means that in order for a species to exist on the planet Earth, it has to reproduce itself in a multiple number of 2.1% of every woman in that species is this. When I say every, we talk about average. Every woman in that species has to produce 2.1 child to reach the age of 15 in that species. If it doesn't, then that species, no matter what it's doing, no matter where it lives on the planet, that species will begin to
My
disappear.
Monday meetings.
It begins on the road of
My Monday
extinction
meetings.
because man does not extinct beyond that. It has to be 2.1 children or more per woman. That's an average again in that species. The European knows that. This is why they are doing everything they can to disrupt that particular law in the African American community so that we fall so far below that law that we can't reproduce generations after generations that we will become extinct. And 10 years ago, we were up to 2.15 in terms of that sub-replacement fertility law. And 10 years before that, we was even higher. We've been falling gradually. Now we are down to 1.88. We're already on the slide of extinction. We're already on the downslide of extinction. This is the law. This is the way the creation is made.
Yes, sir.
Now, European knows that. This is why they step back now. You don't see them arguing with African Americans anymore about any of the. Well, we don't need to fight them anymore. All we have to just keep pushing drugs in the community, keep pushing interracial marriages, keep pushing homosexuality, keep pushing these things, keep pushing the idea of happy and not being sad, not looking for development of self, keeping them ignorant to the existence of themselves, and they will disappear. They know that. They're not. These are scientists. They're sitting back and they know that. They say they're telling the ignorant ones of the European community, just be quiet. Just sit down and leave them alone. Don't worry about it. Let them sit next to you. What difference does it make if they sit next to you? Go to the same school. Let them go to the same school. Just be quiet. This will take care of itself in time. See, they know that trick is working. And it will work if we allow it to work.
Yes,
but
right.
Because we are created by the Creator with the same power that the original man was created with, the power to change the law, we have the power to change these laws. But we have to be aware of it. We have to be aware of the power to change the law of the sub-replacement fertility rate, or while people will become extinct. We had a pattern of about 15 years. 15 years from now, things are going to be a whole lot different. They just changed that much in 10 years. In 15 years, that means that we're going to have to work today to try to get the African American people to start developing having more children at a rate beyond 1.2 and and preserving those children at least to age 15.
Wow.
And that's the 15-year span. And that has to happen generation to generation. And if we don't get into that, we will become extinct. This what you see now will be a video that they would show in museums of this Rashid Abdullah making this talk about the African American becoming extinct. You'll see that in museums. They're gonna be in European America will be going to museums. They look here, look at them. They knew it was happening, but they didn't do nothing about it.
Wow.
They call that the handwriting on the wall. See, but now now we go to like it's important to us to grasp. How do we grasp that? How do we change it? How do we change this law? The first thing we have to do is begin to re-educate ourselves. We can not allow the education of the European has been implanted in our mind and our subconscious be sufficient for us to overcome this. It's not sufficient. We have to re-educate ourselves. We have to teach ourselves what culture is about. We need to, in our neighborhood, the idea we talked about the Association for Community Planners and all over the country, we need to go into the churches, the synagogues, the masjids, the schools where we can get some access and teach the young people what a culture is and teach them about our culture. The one you read about in the collection, the knowledge collection is there. And there are other places too, but it's definitely there.
Yes,
It's
sir.
first. And the book, The Negro Market, is there. We need to start classes, 2 or 3 people in a class, and it's after school classes or after church classes, Sunday school. We need to start convincing some of our people with this information, convincing them, let's start educating our people on the basis of the African American culture. Culture has this built-in power, is the power of culture to shape the people within that culture to become productive and prosperous. That's the nature of culture. Is for everybody. Everybody's culture is like that. Our culture has just been aborted by the European culture. We have to implement it. Once we do that, we'll be back on the track. We'll be back on the track. Now, I make no promises other than telling the people the truth. The truth suffices
Yes,
if we
sir.
listen to the truth. But that's the
Wow.
base. And we're starting to build this now. Now we're starting to sit there, and I want to apologize again to Brother Rashid for not getting that information out. I've been
It's no
down
problem,
this
bro.
whole week, but I'm going to get you this whole blueprint on how the Associate for Community Planning work, and we're going to get the curriculums. We're going to start breaking out the curriculums to different areas. So we got professors and doctors with us, Dr. Guyton and Dr. J, and all these people with this expertise. And like I said, we're getting calls from all over the country. Now we're going to start using the expertise on how to get this thinking and idea and teaching into our community, so our young people are being taught the culture of their people, not being taught this Black history stuff that the European American invented. No, we're going to be taught the culture of the African American people right here in America and the beautifulness of it. We're starting to push this process now. We're doing it here in my area. We already setting up meetings now to start to with the Association for Community Planning, and we're going to get the curriculums ready for the young people who want to start learning about the culture. And they have the foundation of the books that I produce is enough of a foundation of this knowledge collection is enough for any town, any community to have as a foundation to begin to build and teach the African American its true culture and give them an identity, a positive self-identity of their culture and a cultural identity.
Yes, sir.
That's the reversal of that law. That's the
Yes,
reversal of that law. That keeps
yes,
that
sir.
law, self-reproducibility law in place, is the concept and knowledge of culture.
Right. Well, that's that system that we started off talking about. You know, we have to create a system by which we can deliver this product, good, and this service. Um, it is it's just so exciting to be a part of this particular team. You know, as you were talking, and I look back and I say, you know, man, my time, but the time that I spent led me to this conversation with you today. That here we have upcoming February, we go African American History Month, Nubian, whatever they want to call it, you know, and then you have this Juneteenth thing that's happening, but there's a group out there right now who is indeed needy of assistance and help and guidance, and that is Black Wall Streets throughout the country. They, you know, everybody want to replicate what happened in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Everybody want to think in terms of this was a movement that was worthy of our attention, and quite frankly, it is. To be able to organize and structure and outline on culture identity, you know, with the River of Gold, with some of the successes automatic conceptually, and begin to deliver this to our Black Wall Street organizations that get on one accord. If we just get on one accord, Dr. Shaheed, you know, we can make some progress very, very quickly. So if you calling yourself Black Wall Street, you know, and you trying to replicate Tulsa, Oklahoma, not going to happen in that way. It's not going to happen. So it has to start with our culture identity, because these people knew who they were. They knew who they were back in the early 1989, 1990, 2000. They knew what they were doing, and they knew what goals and objectives they had to put in place, and they knew they had to do it together. That's the only way it worked. So what you're talking about currently is basically taking the same concept under a system that we put in place to re-educate ourselves. And particularly, most people talk about Black Wall Street, they don't have a clue. They just, oh, man, they start with Tulsa, and that's it. Quite frankly, may go way beyond Tulsa, Oklahoma. And so that's a mission that the Neighborhood Association of Community Planning can implement with the Black Wall Street umbrella. So just yesterday, I'm on a Zoom call with a Black Expo with the Dallas Black Wall Street. You know, and I didn't even know it was a Black Expo that's taking place in Dallas in February. That and I didn't know. I know the brother Tony Fain. I know him, but through that conversation, I found out there's a sister who has a Black bank in Dallas, Texas. Who need our support, who need our help, who need to know how to culminate and bring all these things together. So you're absolutely correct. Until we can begin to re-educate ourselves, and particularly our next generation of young people. I look at the X generation. I mean, Generation X. Wait, they telling you right in your face, we Xing you out. And the millennial not paying attention to what millennial mean. So we want to, as we get short on time, but we want to definitely begin that focusing on strategy. And that's what I'm to tell you, the beautiful part about the book, you know, Uncovering the Scheme, is strategy. We didn't know this. That was a strategy put in place to affect us, and we can reverse that strategy by doing exactly what you're saying. What they took from us, let's reverse it. Reverse the culture, reverse the politics, reverse the music, reverse the crime, reverse the ability, the drugs is in our community. You know where that stuff is coming from. You don't produce any drugs, but you big time a drug dealer. For who? You know, and all of our people going to prison, because I work with the prison system. You know, this prison system, you know, some of our best minds are sitting right there in the prison, uneducated minds sitting right there in the prison. You know, and you said the one key thing that always affects me, health. Wow. Being health and abortion, I'm telling you, they're making this job easy. It's an easy job because we leaving here with all kind of health issues. We leaving here with the abortion. You gave us a beautiful statistic of combining all these together. It still doesn't outweigh the abortion. That's mind-boggling. And so, Dr. G, I know you may have a question you may want to have, and we're dying faster than any other race. And so I got 2 pages of notes today, you know. So now I'm going to try to take these notes and put them in a way where we can begin to use them as you send me the information that you have, and our promotion of our books, our promotion of our schools. This sense of urgency, this title that we have to give this movement. You're talking about a 15-year devastation that's getting ready to take place that nobody's even thinking about. You know, you said, I'm on my way to the gallows. You see this noose up here, but you don't know what it's for. You know, that's an unbelievable thought that we're that naive. We don't believe someone could be this evil, this diabolical. And I think that's the problem that we're experiencing. We don't believe Master this cold. Oh, Master wouldn't do that to us. Oh, he would. Oh, no, white folk. I got some of my best friends are white. You know, and them same people, as soon as you turn your back, they stab you in your back with words, with culture, with business, politics, education, and so forth and so on. So we can't, I'm not saying not to trust in them, but until we can prove that we have what we need to exist, then you can't allow those people in the house. You know, I'll leave it with that. Dr. Guy, you have something you want to say before our closing remarks by our instructor?
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity to be able to participate in something so, I mean, it's just I love being left speechless in that aspect. But I think the thing that was pointed out is how we must position ourselves to magnify the message that we are hearing and allow it to take this to the world that we exist in. And so that's where my thought is just coming and being able to pivot in a situation like Black Wall Street. And the thing that they were, you know, the story is not what happened on May 31st, June 1st. That's not, that's what they'll magnify, but that's not the issue. What's the issue really what took place 1906 till that time it didn't exist anymore. How
Mm-hmm.
we thrived instead of survived. Oh, and allow that to be the appetite of those that are coming behind us, being able to tell that story and to be able to show the reality of that. And so now we have a visible example that we can point to in how we reproduce it. This is how then you're able to show why it doesn't exist today, and schemes that were put in place to not let it exist. But
Mhm.
I think it's a time whose turn has come for us to begin to tell the story in a way that in other words, once the mind has been stretched to a new dimension, it can't go back to the same old mold. And so, be able to use some of the techniques now in reference to getting people excited about this message. And I mean, when we look at just just simple things that used to exist in our neighborhoods, in our languages, uh, 15, 20 years ago that doesn't exist now. There used to be a time where you used to have what they call black radio stations.
Mhm.
When was the last time that we saw a black radio station? They changed them to urban or community.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
But that was a means of us communicating all across the country through that outlet or through those outlets, and
Hmm?
they attacked those, and
Oh,
they caused them to
y'all just
disappear.
coming in?
And the more they
Oh, you
moved them
smart.
out
All
of
right, how you doing?
communities and out of
You
neighborhoods,
doing okay?
the further we
Did he treat you right?
begin to respond
Huh?
negative to each
He a
other.
sweetheart. Okay, so
But
you treat him right too?
there's some things that we can
Okay, so he a
begin to
sweetheart too?
do with
So
this
both of y'all
information
sweethearts?
because it's going to be drawn, and it
Okay.
doesn't
So I
take
was about to say, what does
a
two
lot of
sweethearts?
people to get it started.
Okay.
But with what we are, who we are, what we
Cool.
do, what we have to work with,
I like that.
let's
Nice to
start
meet you.
here
Very nice to meet you.
and make
Yeah.
some things
All
happen.
right.
Let it start with us now and begin to build this into uh, the hearts of these young people in reference to the reality of when you go around, like where's the Navajo, where's the Cherokee, where's the go through all these tribes. Hey, they didn't just voluntarily become extinct. And then when you see things in our neighborhood, listen, our communities have already begun to be have that extinct look.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not like you can't point to some things that are happening now. But the time when we used to have our own doctors, our own hospitals, our
Mm-hmm.
own banks, our own businesses, all of that. And that was the example that Black Wall Street showed, and that this can begin to be a reality again. But these are the things that we must do, and these are the things that we must stop doing and begin to us being proactive in a way. And you'll have your underground railroad crowd, those ones that were there when Harriet Tubman needed to do what she needed to do. But hey, man, when they got ready to turn around and